Hello, good evening. Welcome to Talkin Kop. It's me, Chris Brackett, him, Kev O'Sullivan, and we're here for a bit of a transfer roundup and just a general chit chat. How you doing, Kev?
Uh, yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Been a busy weekish. We had a
Yeah.
bank holiday weekend over here,
I feel
so
like you have a bank holiday weekend every other week in Ireland. We're in their own
yeah.
country.
I mean, we don't brag, but we do our bit. Well, the thing is,
You
you
don't
while
in
you
England.
guys were off having a parade in Liverpool, we
Yeah,
were
it's
all
great
in
fun.
work. Yeah, we were all in work over here, so we just have ours a week later. That's all it is.
Uh,
So we have ours on the first Monday of June. You guys have it the last Monday in May. But yeah,
it's
no, it's
beautiful.
been busy couple of days. Keep it. I've been in work and I've been doing what everyone else is doing,
Scrolling.
scrolling and keeping an eye on notifications and phones popping and who's going where and who's doing what. It's just been, I don't know. It's been interesting. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, we'll go through a few things. We're going to talk about Florian Wirtz's body in German journalist, which is I'm all for, to be honest. It's great
yeah,
fun. But let's talk about Queeve because It,
yeah,
he's
100%.
officially announced now he's moved to Brentford, 12.5 million, rising to 18. A lot of social media chat about how disappointed people are with the fee. It's quite low. My gut feeling is I think there's been a bit of a nod and an agreement to him. Like, look, you probably said a year longer than you wanted to, so it's almost a bit like we'll make it easy for you and let you go. That's
Yeah,
what that's how I see it. And the message for him leaving very different to how the previous person left. It is a lot more about it. It's not as clinical, I would say, is it? It's a bit more heartfelt.
yeah. Look, I'll come back to that bit in a minute. But when it comes down to the fee, it's 12.5 million, rising to 18 in achievable add-ons for a goalkeeper with 67 first team appearances in 10 years at Liverpool, who's achieved so much. Two league titles, Champions League, FA Cup, two League Cups.
Super Cup.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
Super Cup. He and he's been really important this season. He could have gone 2 years ago. I think the fact that he, I remember watching interviews with him last year over here after last season, after the season finished, and Jurgen Klopp left. He was making the noises then that he felt he was ready to go and be a number one somewhere, and we all felt on here especially that he was going to go last summer, especially when we'd signed Mamadashvili. But when the news came out that Mamadashvili was signing and staying at Valencia for a year, we were all wondering, okay, hang on. We know Kelleher needs to go and play football. He's 25 years of age at this stage. And what are we going to do? Is Yaros going to be the number two? And I think a lot of us, well, me anyway, I was more pushing for him to go because I want him to play first team football. That I was working out in my head that I'd be okay with Yaros being the number two. But lo and behold, he decides to stay for another year. He doesn't kick up a fuss. He's on 10 grand a week. He doesn't moan. He doesn't bitch about it. Gets on with the job. And when he's called upon this season, he's magnificent. He's absolutely outstanding. He's made the Ireland number one his own because there was a couple of years ago, him and Gavin Bazunu were fighting it out as to who's going to be the number one. Caoimhín Kelleher is undoubtedly the number one Ireland goalkeeper now. And the fact that he's going to go and play for Thomas Frank. Hopefully, Thomas Frank stays at Brentford. It's a really good setup there. And the fee, I think, for a number two goalkeeper with that limited amount of actual first team games, bearing in mind Flecken has gone to Bayer Leverkusen at 31 years of age for significantly less money, who is significantly more experienced, is a really top keeper after the season he's just put down at Brentford.
Mm.
I think it's a very good fee for a guy who was on 10 grand a week with a year left in his contract, who would have been well within his rights to stamp his feet and say, no, I'll stay out and I'll go on a free. And he would have been well within his rights to do it. He decided, no, he doesn't. And he, he's going to go and have a career for himself. 26 years of age now. He's going to go to Brentford, be the number one keeper. The club that he came from Cork,
Get 3 million, isn't it?
£3 million, which for an amateur club is massive. I mean, amateur clubs over here, soccer clubs up and down the country, you'll see them on Saturday mornings in like supermarkets packing bags for people to raise money, having coffee mornings, having bingo nights, doing everything humanly possible to raise money to build pitches for the kids and get equipment and provide stuff for the local communities. Here's a bumper £3 million, which is going to translate to nearly €4 million. And for that, it's massive. It's life changing for this club. They will literally build infrastructure to create the next generation of Queven Kelleher's, in the hope that they'll be able to develop the next generation, boys and girls. The Ireland women's team were playing in Cork tonight in Park Queeve against, I think it was Slovakia. They won 1-0. But they're trying to make their home base for the Republic of Ireland games in Cork. And having a facility like this in the city, what they're going to be able to build is massive. It's massive for the city and it's massive for the club, all on the back of Queven Kelleher going to Brentford. So all in all, the way he left the club, the send off that he got from the club was unbelievable. I'd encourage anyone, go and check out Queven Kelleher's Instagram account.
It's nice. It's a nice little
It's
video.
a really nice video, well done, and I don't think Queven Kelleher put that together himself. I think he would have had a lot of help putting that together from the club, and it's a really, really good way to leave the club. And I think he leaves the club with the blessing of the fans first and foremost, but the players as well. I think the players really appreciate what he did for them last season. It's telling the Conor Bradley, really close to Conor Bradley, Costas Simicas, Luis Diaz were one of the first people to leave comments after that post went up. And within a couple of minutes of that post going up, it was there are just a few of the players that left comments. I'm sure the rest will as well. So look, I just wish him the best of luck and hope he drops 2 clangers every season for the rest of his career against us home and away.
Yeah, I mean, he leaves the club with two big records. He's got the most penalty shootout wins for any Liverpool keeper. I think he's got 4, and he has the highest win percentage of any goalie we've had, which is not bad, really. It's not a bad way of going about it. So,
No.
all in all, and Ashley was quite right. Brentford are quietly becoming our new Bournemouth. There's 3 players they've had off now, haven't they?
Yeah.
2. I think 2 are going to work out. I don't think our value is.
No, but it looks like the centre back,
Sepp Vandenberg's done really
Sepp
well.
Vandenberg. Yeah, he had a really good season last year, and they have an Irish centre back there as well. Name escapes me, but he's going into a well organised club that are going to be in the middle of a rebuild as well, because it looks like Brian Mbuemo is going to go to Manchester United, and there's talk that Vissa could be on the move as well. And I think Bournemouth are going to have a little bit of a spending summer, and Thomas Frank, that club with money, is generally really interesting. They're generally really interesting to watch who they bring in, how they develop over the next year, 18 months, because down the line they could be potential incomings for us down the line. It's just the way that Brentford as a club tend to operate. They buy, Nathan Collins, they buy really well, really smartly on the stats to sell down the line. It's what they did with Brian Mbuemo, and it's what they've done with a few others. It might be what they end up doing with Queven Kelleher down the line. You don't know. He signed a 5-year deal with an option of a 6th that's in Brentford's favour, apparently. So Brentford hold the option of a 6th year.
They're probably hoping he has 2 or 3 really big years for them, and then do what Brentford do really well: sell him on. He gets another big move, and they get a nice payday out of it. There's a few in the chat getting anxious. We are going to talk about Florian Wirtz,
we'll get there.
But we're just paying tribute to someone who's done really well for the club, and it's be wrong not to talk about him. So Look, I've got fond memories of Queeve because my daughter's first game was when he was in goal and
Yeah.
he wins a penalty shootout. So I've always had fond memories of Queeve. He's one of the few keepers I've seen score a penalty,
Yes.
and it was a good
Especially for us.
and it was a good penalty as well. To be fair, so
Yeah. Massive pressure now because that was late on in the shootout, wasn't it?
yeah, he was number
Uh,
11. He was number 11. I mean, to be fair, his penalty was much better than Canate's.
yeah.
Canate's was rubbish.
I always worry whenever I see a right-footed player, coming up to hit a penalty and goes across his body because they're generally easier to read for a keeper. So when he comes up and he hits that penalty across his body, but he hits it with power and whip. So the keeper was never getting anywhere near it. But yeah, that's probably for me the highlight of his Liverpool career was that penalty shootout. That performance in that game against Chelsea in the League Cup final, topped off by the penalty shootout, was outstanding. He was absolutely outrageous.
Uh, just Brian O'Sullivan. It's not me stopping Ashley from joining the stream because Kev's in charge. So
Yeah, Ashley's on her. She's on a sabbatical at the minute, so she's
still recovering from Liverpool.
yeah, but she's definitely going to be back on later in the week, 100%. Don't worry.
Yeah, right. Should we talk about Florian Wirtz because everyone's getting very angsty. Kev, I mean, Kev, you're not really on social media as much now.
No,
I still dip in partly because I just like to wind up ITKs and it's my sort of passing time hobby. But there is definitely an element of our fan base. I think it's just the way people's nature is, who either assume Verts is not going to happen because we've been stung in the past by big deals falling through.
yeah,
We've also had big deals go through, but people seem to forget that. There's definitely some who just want a "I told you so" moment, so they can have a pop.
yes,
But there's also the element of don't believe everything you read on the internet, even if it's from journalists. As Florian Wirtz today on his social media said, don't believe everything that you read. Basically saying there's a clickbait story that came out from German journalist saying a stumbling block for Liverpool with Wirtz was he wants the number 10 shirt, but that is already held by McAllister. Florian Wirtz basically says, no, not true, bollocks. Sort of, is that also announcing that he's coming as well? He's like, no, I've not asked for
no,
10.
I don't.
I'm happy for any number. It's a bit of an odd one to reply to because you just ignore it. It's just speculation. But
Yeah, look, I think this all goes. You look at the comments that come out from Julian Nagelsmann, the German manager, when he talked about imminent transfers. Now, I'm sure that Nagelsmann didn't answer that question in English, and I know his English is impeccable. So, but I'm sure that was a German journalist asking him about Florian Wirtz's state of mind with the transfer, and he answered with the word imminent in it. Now, at the end of the day, that can translate different ways and different meanings with different languages. But at the same time, look, I think the deal, look, by the looks of everything you read, it's in the closing stages of getting done. It's a massive deal. Whenever you're dealing with what potentially could be British record level transfer fees, the details really, really matter. And I think they'd probably be working on the Frimpong deal for a few weeks where we knew that we were triggering a release clause. So this is a deal where we really do want the player. And Bayer Leverkusen are under no obligation to sell to us or anyone else. The player, by all accounts, has made it known he wants to play for Liverpool, which is great for us. Happy days. But at
also,
the end of the day,
that also
Bayer Leverkusen.
that helps the negotiations as well, though, doesn't it? Because it's kind of like it's just trying to find the best of both worlds. So my gut feeling is the big number that will be announced in the press. I think that's agreed. It's the payment structure, it's the add-ons, and if this goes, assuming this goes through, this is a British transfer record. It's Liverpool's biggest ever transfer. So these, while they're on paper say, oh, it's a 2%. If he does this or 3% that, with this level of number. It's big money, so
Yeah,
you just got to make sure it works for both parties. But to me, my gut feeling is it's a matter of when, not an if. I think it's gone beyond the if. I think if it was an if, I think there'd have been a lot less shite coming out, and there'd have been more clubs linked and
exactly. I
more
think that
frustration. And it's very, the Fabrizio Miles of the world who was just tweeting every 10 minutes, going, "It's getting closer, it's getting closer." The usual stuff, like he was with McAllister. Do you remember the McAllister deal, which is quite a
yeah,
routine deal, but he was tweeting every 5 minutes what was going on.
yeah, that's it. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know if the final fee has been agreed. I think the fee that was quoted around would have us paying between 105 and 109 million pounds. I think it's going to take a British record fee, which would take it up towards the 115 to 120 million pounds range to get this over the line. And mainly because I think Bayer Leverkusen know the value of the player that they have. They know that he's that good. They also know that his best years are ahead of him. And I think Liverpool's rightly looking at it, thinking, okay, look, you're fantastic. You're going to be unbelievably brilliant for us, but you're 22. The odds of you at 22 hitting the ground running are slim at best. I think I've seen reports coming out of the German press saying he might need to develop physically for the Premier League because it is physically different. So, it's not a case of he starts and he's going to be instantly fantastic. It's going to be difficult for him to come in and carry whatever fee is paid for him and the expectations that brings. And, hit the ground running as well. So, look, I think the club are probably trying their best not to tie that around his neck that you are the most expensive player in British football history. But I think ultimately it could probably end up being that. I think not Caicedo, ends up, yeah, it might have been Caicedo actually. Caicedo was 100 million, rising with add-ons to be 115 to 120. Now, at the end of the day, the only figure that anyone cares about is you keep looking at it. Caicedo is 120 million pound player. He wasn't. He was a 100 million pound player with add-ons. Now, at the end of the day, while Arne Slot is at Liverpool, Chelsea aren't winning the league. So the odds of him achieving his add-ons are not as good as what people like to think. Whereas the add-ons that are going to be in this contract for Florian Wirtz, you'd expect Liverpool to be achieving a fair chunk of them over a 5-year contract, potentially winning a Champions League, potentially winning at least a Premier League, qualifying for the Champions League every year. Hitting targets of assists and goals, which is how we structure deals. So I think it'll get done. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that it won't get done. But you're also dealing with the fact that Germany are playing in the Nations League semi-final tomorrow night against Portugal. And outside of England, on the continent, they look at this Nations League as important. It's the year before a World Cup. The managers don't have as much time as what people think they do to prepare for a World Cup. They really look at this tournament as being really important for their World Cup preparations. So the idea that Nagelsmann would be okay with Florian Wirtz playing tomorrow night against Portugal, and on a day where he's supposed to be on a warm down, fly off to Liverpool for a medical in between that and a potential final, and at the weekend, it's for the birds. I think you said to me earlier. Go on, you say what you said to me earlier.
Oh, I've said I could see in the next couple of days the Paul Joyce email comes out saying Bayer Leverkusen have accepted a bid of X amount for Florian Wirtz, and it'll say subject to medical. Medical is expected to be done after the internationals, which is like as good as you're going to get. 99% done. Everything's agreed. It's just a matter of doing the medical, which they can do after the international weeks. Then he can go off and have a break before he's back for first day of pre-season. That's the ideal. I think that's what will happen, and I think then you hear Kirkes announced probably about 3 days later. Kirkes is like the forgotten man. We'll come to in a minute, because that also seems to be rubbling along quite nicely. So, I mean, listen, I was talking to my brother about this, and he hit the nail on the head. He said, listen, you get to the end of this first transfer window, and you've got Frimpong, Kirkes, Wirtz boxed. He said, what more can you ask for a start for summer? So then it's the rest of it's like icing on the cakes, then, isn't it? And less desperation. It's more focused on getting players out, and then you look for your opportunities then. And I think that's what Liverpool will do. Let's just talk around Kirk. Is it Kirkedge?
Kirkes?
Yeah, the Kirk. No, the lad from Leon.
Oh, Shirky.
Shirky.
Ryan Shirky, yeah.
Yeah. Odd comment coming off of David Ornstein, who we all know has somebody at Liverpool's ear quite high up, saying Arne Slot last week flew to South France to honour a conversation with the player, despite the fact this is in the pipeline before the Wirtz deal really took off and gathered momentum. Now, part of me goes, why fly out? Just cancel the meeting if you don't want it. Then I was listening down to a rap, and they said, like, is there a world where maybe Slot's gone to meet him going, yeah, this is someone I can work with? Maybe they're thinking, maybe go for 2, because he could cover right wing and he could cover 10. There's plenty of minutes to go around, because we are going to at least shift one of the forwards, maybe 2. My gut feeling is he still goes to City, and this is just a little bit of mischief. There could be some mischief making, but I just find it odd you'd go and see a player to see him face to go, yeah, listen, lads, we'll get him Wirtz. So thanks very much. Meeting's over.
Yeah. Look, I watched Ryan Shirky in the. I can't say I watched loads of him, but I watched him in the Europa League against Manchester United. Technically, on the ball, he's got a bang of Shaqiri off him that you wouldn't believe. And Ryan Shirky technically is as good as anything you'll see. He's on the ball, ridiculously good. Probably to a point where it comes so easy to him beating players and making the right decisions more often than not. You're asking yourself, why has nobody gone for him already? He's played so much football for such a young kid that he's got bags of experience, and he's been primed for a move for a long time. And I keep coming back to the fact he has absolutely zero interest in defending in any way, shape, or form. He just looks at defending and says, that's not my job. I'm not here for that. Which makes me look at it. Why on earth are Man City looking at him? If they think that he's going to replace Bernardo Silva, he just isn't. I think if we were really interested in him, the only way I see him fitting into Liverpool is if he has a role very similar to what Mo Salah does, where he tracks back when he has to, when he absolutely has to. But ultimately, he's the guy who is the outlet. His problem is he hasn't got pace. He's not quick. On the ball, passing, dribbling. He's got everything in that aspect of his game. But he has very little interest in defending, and he doesn't have any raw pace at all. So, while, yes, I could see a world where Liverpool would look to sign him and maybe add him to the squad for depth, I'd prefer to have Chiesa. And because I think Chiesa is as good a footballer, but he's quicker. And he's as flexible. And he'll be going into pre-season fit. And a fit Federico Chiesa going into pre-season is more of an asset, and we already have him. I just don't see why you would sell someone who has that much potential for the fee that we'll likely get for Shaqiri, which wouldn't be massive, to bring in someone like Ryan Shirky, who's, yes, he's younger, but there's so much work to do with him. I just can't see it. I think we were probably looking at him potentially as an option, as one of the 10s, but I see Bob Paddock made a point earlier on in the chat about the price for him. that he's just he's too cheap for the quality that he has, which is a fair point. But I look at how we play, and I just don't see him fitting. I can't see it personally.
No, I mean that'd be the interesting for City because we can say what we want about Man City, but one thing about Man City is they do work hard. It's all, we've also got the quick passing and the clever play that City do, but they work the bollocks off City. They run you, they make you work for it, which is probably what they couldn't do last year because I think a lot of the legs went out of them, which is what killed them for a
Yeah.
large period. And I do think that's what the £200 million worth of players they bought in January, which has gone under the radar, I've probably struggled with. I think is the demand of how much work rate you have to get through, which is why when you got to a cup final last year with City, only Mamouche was in the starting 11. The rest were on the bench.
Well,
And these aren't poor players he's bought. The good
no.
players. The demands are hard.
Well, Alejandro is making the point here. Guardiola could actually make a player out of Shirky. He'll probably have him in orbit around Haaland, short guy, tall guy partnership, but that's under the Pep system. I think the one thing Pep Guardiola demands of his players is counter pressing. And when you look at the fact that he's bringing Pep Linders in as a coach, means that he wants to up their work rate in counter pressing massively. I do not see I cannot see him being a Pep player.
No.
And like I said, I think technically on the ball he's fantastic. I just cannot, for the life of me, understand where he fits in a Guardiola system. I think.
Well, you saw it in Barcelona, didn't you? With Ibrahimovic,
Yeah,
he basically went as good. I mean, Ibrahimovic is a fantastic forward, but he's like doesn't do it for me. And Marky Mark makes the point.
yeah,
Isn't that Mamouche's role? And
exactly.
Mamouche does that better, and he's more mobile. And Mamouche is an excellent signing. As much as it's great to shit on City and I do quite enjoy doing that. Mamouche is fabulous. He's a really good signing. He is someone that if you time for Liverpool, you go, oh yeah, I can see how that works.
Mm.
But I'm looking for. Listen, all being good, I'm hoping we get Verts because, like you and me both said, if Verts had signed for City, we'd have all gone, "Oh, fuck it now, that's a beautiful sign," and we'd have all dreaded it.
Yeah.
So you could embrace this. A few Twitter bits coming out from Sports Build. I can never tell if that's the reliable one or the other one. Are saying they reckon the transfer fee for Florian Wirtz will be over €135 million, including the bonus payments. So, kind of the figure we thought it'd be in and around. It'd be one of those things, as we'll see, is we'll announce the initial payment and nothing else. They'll announce the full payment with the add-ons because that's the game. We all do that, don't we? So,
yeah,
we'll have to see. So, yeah. So let's go to Kirkes then, who is liking Florian Wirtz's posts. He's couldn't make it any more obvious that he wants to move.
Yeah.
A little bit of forgotten man, but again, I think we get him. We're looking to get him. It looks like City are going to move for the Wolves fullback. So
yeah.
So probably the two main left backs that we thought would move this summer. Looks like they're going to, two of the main contenders for the league next year. Arsenal don't really need a left back because they've got about 15, so they're okay. But yeah, look forward to Kirkes. I think he'll be. I think he gives us what we need: bit more pace, which Robbo is just lost a bit. Age catches up with the best of us, and he's got a beauty of a delivery as well. The other thing I don't know about, because I don't watch enough of Bournemouth, is I don't know if he's much of a set piece taker, because I do think that's still a bit of an area for Liverpool where we probably could do a bit of a better set piece routine taker. We haven't really found one yet, have we, for the corners?
No, it's not something that sticks out in my mind about him. The one thing I'd say is rapid. He is very quick. He's a good defender as well. I don't think he's an excellent defender. I think he's a good defender, but that will hopefully come with age. I think the fee is a problem. I think £45 million in any market is steep for a fullback. I think unless you're buying someone who's like Hakimi level, then I think at 45 million, you're not leaving yourself. It has to work. Do you know what I mean? you have to be. It has to be right, and it has to be a long term. You have to be looking at signing Kirk as a 45 million, and expecting to get at least one contract extension, potentially two. Do you get me? So like you're
Yeah,
signing him for 5, and potentially adding at least 2 more years into his contract down the line, and potentially 2 more years again. You have to be looking at this kind of a signing being a signing for a decade. Do you know what I mean? So you want to be signing him at 21, you want him to be out the gap at 31. So I think that you can justify the 45 million if that works out. If it doesn't work out, I think you struggle to recoup your money at 45 million. I think it's a gamble. I think it's a gamble worth taking. By the way,
yeah,
no, don't mix it. I've been on this train for 18 months of watching this kid. Whenever I've seen him play, I've been really impressed. Constantly come on here and said, "Yeah, we need to be signing him." I wanted to sign him last year, so I do want us to sign him. I just think that Richard Hughes will try to get that 45 million down to maybe something that rises to 45 million rather
yeah.
than starts off and is 45 million flat.
They want yeah, it's kind of like that sweet spot of 35, which is generally, I mean, a lot of our best signings has been around the 35 million mark. It's kind of a
35,
sweet,
37.
yeah, kind of a sweet spot for Liverpool. Whether they'll get that, who knows? We'll come back to Liverpool in a bit. Let's talk about a few other clubs.
Yeah, sure.
Let's talk about Bob's. Bring Bob's comments up because this is starting to wingle its way around. Zubimendi, he loves these mountains and is now saying it's going to be a long summer and might now be holding out for a Real Madrid move, which is he's a crack anyway.
Look, I think that every major club in Europe has had a wing to try to get this kid out of Spain. I think Alonso going there with his Sociedad links. I think that changes things.
Mm.
I also think that Zubamendi to Madrid makes so much sense given what Alonso and the system he wants to play, how he wants to play with at least one holding six, if not two.
Mm.
And also the fact that Spanish will play for Spain at some point when
Does
Rodri
yeah, well,
when
he's Roger's backup, isn't he? So he's always
yeah.
the first up.
But the other side of it is you look at Madrid at the minute, they've lost Modric, and you're looking at that midfield and you think, who's the anchor in a passing, fluid midfield that you can play through? And I don't think they have one. I think Tchouaméni is more of. I think Tchouaméni will end up being one of the 3 centre backs at Madrid, and then I think you're looking at Camavinga as more of a box to box type midfielder. Bellingham doesn't have the discipline to play the role, so I think that there is a market there for Madrid to go and get him, and I think if Madrid make it known that they want him, I think Madrid get him.
I also think, do you know what? If he went to Arsenal, like if he came to Liverpool, so this is not even like shitting on Arsenal. Because this was my concern if he came to Liverpool is every international break, you'd hear about him wanting to go back to Spain. You'd hear about him being homesick. You'd hear about him not being happy. That's all you'd have. Every international break, every summer, he wants to move back. So he just wants to stay in Spain. Let him. It's nothing to do with his talent. He's a very talented player. But yeah, he's just. But also, is he what Arsenal need? I feel like the last thing they've got plenty of between. Unless there's talk of Partey and Jorginho goes. So maybe they do need another
Well,
midfielder.
Jorginho's going. Jorginho's definitely going. They do need a 6, and I think he would be ideal for Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? Let's call a spade a spade. He would be perfect for that sitting role in a 3-man midfield to have Declan Rice on one side of him, bombing on, and Odegaard, if they want to play him as an attacking 8/10. I think he'd be ideal in that role. But I still don't see him. I think the old problems are still there. I think this is the same with us last year. Gave all the signals that he wanted to go, had everything agreed, gave his commitment. Yes, I want to come. Liverpool made the overtures, and ultimately fell down when he had to actually do it. And he'd done that before. He'd done that with other clubs. I think Munich was another one that tried it, and it's the same again. Arsenal went really early for him. I think even before the January transfer window, Arsenal were talking to him. So as far as Arsenal were concerned, this was a lock, a done deal. But I think the Xabi Alonso to Madrid and the system change within Madrid that will happen, the evolution that Xabi Alonso wants to bring, suits Zubamendi at Madrid. So if he ends up at Arsenal, will I be shocked? Yeah, I'd be slightly surprised. But I think the only way he ends up at Arsenal now is if if Madrid don't go for him. And if Madrid make overtures to him and match the fee that Arsenal are paying, then I think he's a Madrid player.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go up the East Lancs Road then. Let's talk about Manchester United because they've been busy. They've got Cunha through the door. Looks like Mbuemo is going to them, who I think is a very good signing for them. Bruno Fernandes does not want to go to Saudi, but sort of sounds like he won't mind going somewhere, just not Saudi. I think he will stay in the European Elite. And probably annoyingly for Man United, Chelsea haven't taken up the option to sign Jadon Sancho. They're just going to pay the $5 million fee. And like Rashford, they're both going back to United, which is a lot of wages going back to Man United, who could do with slimming down their wage bill. I do think Sancho and Rashford will get moved on anyway, but it's a headache they could have done without.
I think they're going to have to Aquilani both of them. I think, and you throw Anthony into the mix. That's three players coming back to the club who the club don't want, who are going to cost the club £1 million a week in wages, as long as they're there. And we all know how Radcliffe loves wages. This will absolutely be his worst nightmare. I think they'll have to. If you're Jadon Sancho and you've got a year left in your contract and you're on 350 grand a week, and X club comes in and says, I want you to come and play for my club, I'm willing to pay you 100 grand a week. Yeah, come back to me next year and we'll talk when you don't have to pay a transfer fee for me.
Yeah.
If I'm Jadon Sancho, I am not leaving Manchester United unless my contract is either paid up or subsidised for me to leave. In the same way as Chelsea had to do with Raheem Sterling, I think Manchester United are going to have to do that definitely with Rashford and almost definitely with Jadon Sancho. I don't know the story with Anthony with his wages, but there is no world in which Anthony recoups the fee that Manchester United paid for him. It's just not happening. So at the end of the day, Anthony has had a brilliant season at Betis, done really well in Europe, but Manchester United are not recouping the 80 plus million that they paid for him.
And Dylan makes a good point as well. Add Garachi to that list as well, because obviously they've made it known he can go as well. So there's a lot of outs going there. If I'm honest, there's not going to be a lot going. It could be a bit of a book balance in them. They're not making it sound like they're going to bring too many in.
No.
So
I think the thing is, I think their problem. Look, I think they're storing up a massive problem with Amorim. They're going to keep him, and they're going to buy for his system. I think the two players that they've looked to bring in Brian Mbuemo and Mateus Cunha, will play as like inside left, inside right forwards. Their perfect position, their ideal position, to be honest. They're perfect for what Amorim wants to play. They're looking, I think AC Milan were looking to loan Højlund, is one of the Milan clubs. It's either AC or Inter.
Yeah.
So we're looking to try to loan Højlund. I think they'll go for that. They still need to bring in a number 9. And I still think that Bruno Fernandes, well, fair play to him for not accepting the Saudi millions. He's look, I think he will want to, he's at an age now where he wants to play in Europe's top competitions. So I can see a world where Bruno Fernandes is sold to a top European club who are going to be competing in the back end of the Champions League.
And he'll do well because
Yeah,
he does get goals, and he can work. I don't think he's a captain. I think he's too petulant to be a
yeah.
captain.
But
But
I think,
as a player, I think he's really good.
yeah, I think if Bayern Munich come in for him, I think he could go there. I think any fee that United get for Bruno Fernandes is a bonus because I think when he signed his contract extension, his last contract extension, they didn't expect to be out of Europe and in the financial mess that they're in. So it's pure PSR profit to sell him. So I think they probably will take maybe 50 million for him.
Just get his wages,
Just to get
his wages off.
Yeah, I think I don't think the fee will be what the Saudis would be paying for him, but at the same time, I think he wants to compete for Europe's major honours, and with the best will in the world, unless England get 5 Champions League places again and Manchester United make massive strides in their recovery from where they are now, they're not qualifying for the Champions League next year either. So
let's be honest, they probably need a keeper. They need at least 2 centre backs.
Yeah,
and they need legs. They need more legs in midfield.
Exactly.
Because at the moment he doesn't seem to trust. Ugarte, who I actually thought was doing well for them, especially in Europe, doesn't even play him in the final, which was balmy. Casemiro's not getting any younger, and Mainu just seems to have fell off the face of the earth in terms of playing games. But
I got a theory on Mainu, right?
And Mason Mount's just perpetually injured.
Exactly. The thing is, I think with Kobe Mainu, I think Mainu will develop into be a really good player. He's just played way too much football for someone his age and had received so much hype early that it's not helped him. He shouldn't have never have been in a position to play that amount of football as young as he was. He wasn't ready for it. So I think if he moves, if I'm Aston Villa, for example, I'm all over him. I am all over Kobe Mainu this summer if I'm Aston Villa because I'm looking at a year down the line at potentially replacing John McGinn. So I'm bringing him in under the radar with Unai Emery to develop him for 12 months, and then at 20, let him go and see what he can do. But I think Garnacho is another one who's going to be out the door. United are a huge club, even without European money, but they have a Champions League wage bill that is unsustainable. They have to sell players.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing with Maino is I actually think he'd do well at Arsenal. I think he gives them more mobility in the midfield, bit of a different dynamism, bit of an option. And probably what Arsenal need is, I mean, Liverpool spent most of last year with the 3 main lads and Jones as the first sub, if you know what I mean, and rotate those 4, and then you had an Endo to drop it every now and again. I think that's what Arsenal need. They probably need like a core 4, where you say, we're not going to play 3 of them, and the other one comes in on a regular rotation. I actually think that would do, for someone like a Mainu, would do really well for him. Actually, because he could play both the 8 positions and he could cover a job at 6. So a bit like Jones does for us.
But I think in an Amarin system where he's asked to play as part of a 2-man midfield, I don't think he's physically there yet.
Well, he keeps playing him as the 10, doesn't he? Or he plays him as a false 9, which I don't think plays with strength either.
I think the system. I think it's the system. I think that Amarin system, you need very specific players, and this is where I think Manchester United are making a huge rub for their own back.
Because they get rid of him, they need someone who can play that 3 at the back. Otherwise, it's rip it up and start again.
Exactly. I'm here for it because you can see the writings on the wall. You can see exactly what's going to happen. It's what they do. It's what they've done for years. They buy players to suit the manager, and not only do they not bring in a manager who's similar when they fired Amarin, when Amarin gets the boot, because he will get the boot. They bring in someone completely different, and they're stuck with a squad that is imbalanced and it doesn't fit and it doesn't work. But
I mean, well, actually, it's not even different end of the table because they're the same end of the table now. That's what's happened to Everton for the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at their managers, they went from one extreme to the other. It was like for every progressive manager they had, they then got a Sam Allardyce, and then they went from a Sam Allardyce to say like an Ancelotti, and then from an Ancelotti to a Lampard. Going up, but they all played different styles, different systems. And look, you can play football any different way you want, but then they ended up 4 years down the line with a mishmash of squad, which is a bit of Big Sam, a bit of Silver, a bit of, like they all do different styles of play, different roles, and
It never works.
it never works, which is probably why they're in the mess they've been in, because the squad's so imbalanced. Which is probably now why they probably wanted someone like a David Moyes for a couple of years, just to give them a bit of balance,
Yeah,
and then look for something else to kick them on. That's probably why. I mean, this is not being wise event. The talk that came was, yes, Liverpool did look at Amarin as an option, and they worked out it'll take a £300 million rebuild to get a squad that would suit his style of play. Whereas they looked at a slot and went, there's more similarities. It's a bit more seamless. It's more gradual.
exactly.
And look, proof's in the pudding, because of we are reigning league champions, which is I'm never going to get tired of saying that. It's quite
Never.
nice, isn't it?
No, it is. Nice.
Anyway, let's go back to us. So, let's assume Frimpong's in, Wirtz and Kirkes is done. So let's assume those three are done, boxed early, 3 big areas sorted. What would you like to see Liverpool do after that, in terms of ins and outs, versus what you think will happen?
I think. Okay, Harvey Elliott's going to go to the Euros. Going to go to the under-21s. Tyler Morton will go to the under-21s. I don't think there'll be any movement on those two until after that tournament. Pray to God that they don't get injured. But if they go there and have good tournaments, 2 of them, then I think Tyler Morton is really suited to the Bundesliga. And I can definitely see a reasonably sized German club taking a punt on him at a reasonable fee. I think he'll go in the summer. I think Harvey Elliott is nailed on to go this summer. I'd be shocked if he doesn't. It'll be a shame, because I mean, look, we all love him, but he's starting to feel like a square peg in a round hole, because I think he needs to be playing in a 4-3-3. As that, I think he can do a job as an 8 in a 4-3-3. He's proved that he can do a job as an 8 in a 4-3-3, and as he gets older, he'll physically develop and get better at doing it. I wasn't surprised that, if you believe the reports, that he didn't want to go to Leverkusen, but I think he could definitely do a job pretty much most clubs in the Premier League. I think we'll try to command really good money for him as well.
You'll have the English tax, won't they, and the home tax, which always helps.
It does help. The main question is, what are we going to do with the? Because as much as everyone when we talked about this before, said, right, okay, Jota, Darwin, Diaz. There hasn't been any real noise out of any of the 3 players.
No,
and there hasn't been any noise from other clubs about the players, apart from Luis Diaz. The mood coming out looks like the Saudi clubs are definitely interested. Especially, I think Pippo Inzaghi has taken over one of them, and he's gone there on stupid money. And it looks like he's on, I think it's Al Halal, and Luis Diaz apparently is on their wish list. So, and they've only got a limited time, where if they're going to be doing a deal for any player that they want to play in the Club World Cup, they're going to have to do it this week. And at the moment, Luis Diaz is in South America playing qualifiers. So that makes that kind of a deal really difficult to do.
Yeah. There's a Columbia reporter, I think he was one who first broke us, go after Diaz, who's kind of rubbishing this, who wants to leave, saying he's in negotiations with Liverpool about a extension.
Yeah.
The only part in line he put at the bottom, which was along the lines of, Liverpool look to sell him if they can't get a deal, an extension done. So this could also be a little bit of, the game, play it in the press to get myself a better deal.
Yeah,
Like I'm sure Kanate's people are doing that a little bit,
yeah,
but now it's coming out now that some bits of the press that Kanate's now had quite progressive talk. So it's almost like as we thought. Now Virgil's box, they kind of know what price point to hang their where they'd like to be off. I'm not going to get Virgil money, but I want to be around this percentage below Virgil, and
yeah.
that's where the conversation goes. To be fair to Canate, it's sent by his agent. You may as well hang fire to see what. So, I'm with you. I think a centre back. Who that centre backer is, I'm going to clue because I think for every centre back you could link us to, there's
I think that
pros and
okay.
cons to both. There isn't like a standout where I go, oh, it's got to be X. It may have been Hoyson. Hoyson might have been the one, but
I
he's not.
think I think Hato's legitimate. I think Hato could be one to look at. I wouldn't be a bit surprised.
I think PSG done. I think PSG might be doing a bit of smart business getting the other lad from Bournemouth, Hoyson's
Don't
partner.
ask me his name. I see his name all the
Begins
time.
with Z. For he's for what I've saw, he's been decent for them. I'm not sure how great he is in the ball, but all round
He's
defender.
more. I think the thing is with him, he's very much a footballing centre back, and you look at how PSG play. That's what they want. They want defenders, yes, but kind of like Kubrasi at Barcelona. You need to be really good on the ball, and you have to be really good one-on-one, because they're going to leave you exposed. But you have to be really good on the ball. Zerbani, that's Zerbani, yeah. But you wonder then at PSG who's going to leave. More than likely, Hernandez will be the one to go, or possibly Marquinhos could be one.
It might be Marquinhos because it's almost like he's
Or
completed.
Kimpembe.
Yeah, because I suppose with Marquinhos, he's completed now. If he's completed PSG,
yeah, that's true.
That's probably the one thing he was waiting for, which was he wanted to try and get them their first Champions League. He's done that now, so you can always seem like leave them the high. What more can I? I've won it now. I've done everything that I want to do in France. So and he's at the tail end of his career now as well. So he's probably also thinking, I want to take my payday, which fair play. That's what That's what you want to do. The only thing I'm not sure about is the centre forward for Liverpool. The reason I say that is I don't see an Isak coming because I don't see Newcastle selling into anyone because they don't need to.
There's no noise about him either.
No, I don't see Alvarez leaving Madrid, not at least for another year.
Oh no, that goes nowhere.
Yeah, and then below that, then I think every other number 9 option that you're linked with, there's even a massive fee, but with the massive fee, there's sometimes like a big question mark. Whereas like Wirtz is a massive fee, but I kind of feel like you're paying for guaranteed quality. Whereas I feel like for the others, so your dog agrees with me. Hang
on, let me fix this.
Go on. You sort your dog out. That's it. You show him. Like Ekatike, he could be an absolutely fabulous centre forward, but he's 22. He has a lot of Darwin Núñez traits for me, which is takes a lot of shots from a lot of wild angles, and 90 million is a lot to pay. Which is why it wouldn't surprise me if perhaps Liverpool went for another Diaz type wide forward who could do a job in the middle, and maybe they'll look at the centre forward the season after. Only because I don't think if you're going to spend the big money, I don't know who they're going to spend the big money on that. You go, yeah, that'll do it. I know you like the lad from Sporting.
Yeah, I like Gorkaez, but look, apparently Arsenal are talking to Ben Sesko, and apparently Arsenal are the only club in for Sesko, which means they're not talking to anyone else. I think Gyökeres does move from Sporting this window. Where he goes, he's one that wouldn't surprise me if he ends up in Saudi.
He's 27, is he now? 27,
yeah,
28?
He'll be 27 at the start of the season. Look, I know people look at what he's done in Portugal and look at the goal record and then look at the league and what have you, and that's fine. But he's also maintained that level in Europe, and his international scoring record is very good. I think his international scoring record, goals per games, is better than Alexander Isak. So I think he's a player who, if you play him within the width of the 18-yard box and you feed him, he scores goals. He's a goal scorer. He wouldn't be the best footballer on the planet, but he scores goals. Right foot, left foot, head.
Yeah. But
He's
I don't
just
think I just don't feel that's how Slot wants his number 9 to play.
that's the other point.
Mm.
If you're looking for what Arne Slot is asking or did ask from our number 9s last year, I think I would love us to have a look at Bradley Barcola.
Okay. Dave T, our resident Newcastle fans in the chat, he's put Anthony Gordon to Liverpool rumours are building up on Tyneside, and that I've seen that build up, but
Yeah,
it's coming from the Newcastle end. It's not like
it's not coming
so
from our end.
not coming from our end. So I don't know if that's them gearing up for him to be sold. I don't know, but sometimes we've seen with these deals, it tends to start at the selling club's end. But I know Anthony Gordon splits opinion, but that's the sort of person I can see as going for someone who can play left, can play right, can play through the middle. Bit
I
like the
don't. Yeah, but the
can play
thing
left,
is,
can play through the middle. And I wonder if that's what Liverpool might look to do is look for more fluid winger options if they can't get the number 9 they really want.
yeah, and that's fair enough. But my problem is, I don't think he can play through the middle, and I think that he's not a really good goal scoring winger. I think he's quick. I think he wins a lot of fouls, but I don't think he's the best footballer, and I don't think he's clinical in any sense of the word whatsoever. And the other side of it is we've scored more goals than anyone else last year. We created more chances than anyone else last year. What you need, what I think we need is someone to finish the chances off. Whether that's a winger who can arrive in the box at the right time, in the right place, and be flexible, or an out and out 9. Now, wouldn't surprise me one bit. You look at what Bournemouth did when they signed Evan Nilsson, signed him out of nowhere, but fit the system that Bournemouth were playing. I think you could look at. I think we could end up bringing in a player out of nowhere that no one is even looking at because he fits the style that Arne Slot wants to play. Because I don't think we go into next season playing how we played this season. There's also the other chance that you could end up with Florian Wirtz in a false 9 role, supported by Dominic Szoboszlai and flanked by Cody Gakpo and Mo Salah. So, and I think you could probably end up with that kind of a fluid system as well, and I think if that's the scenario, then the striker you could end up potentially keeping Jota.
I think you keep Jota
selling Darwin.
Yeah.
And then look to maybe bring in maybe a different type of project to work on for the long term rather than something for the here and now. Because I think if you keep Jota and potentially keep Diaz, you don't need a striker for the here and now. You can look to develop one. And yes, you've got Jayden Danns there, but I think Jayden Danns definitely needs the loan.
But I think he does, just to see if his body can take the rigors of regular men's football.
I've seen that name ring about a couple of times. Dante's put him in there. Gonzalo Ramos. I don't think he'd be cheap, but
he's been told he can leave, hasn't he?
Apparently. Yeah. The thing is with him, I look at him and I'm thinking he was coming on he made a lot of appearances for PSG this season. Started a lot of the games maybe against the bottom third, where they were going to dominate the ball and they wanted to rest and rotate players. But in any of the meaningful games, he didn't start. He got 10 minutes at the end of games, when legs were going. Because one thing with PSG, they spend the legs. They spend the legs in 70 minutes, and then they make changes.
I mean, maybe he's an option if you want to flat track bully a couple of teams.
Yeah, but I think there are better players out there for that kind of money. I just don't think he's a very good striker. I actually don't.
Bit of breaking news, Kev. Not Liverpool related. It's not Wirtz. Don't get excited. This is from the Times. Barcelona face UEFA sanctions for the second consecutive year of financial rule breaches, potentially including a reduced Champions League squad or point deductions. Chelsea and Aston Villa, first-time offenders, will face financial penalties. UEFA will confirm details this month.
Okay. Are they financial Well, we'll have to read more details into it. But if those are financial penalties on this European spend on their, because I don't know if those would apply for domestic competitions. How would that work?
What is this financial penalties? Maybe it's just maybe that's a posh word of saying a fine.
Could be a fine, yeah.
Yeah. Barcelona might be a reduced squad, which I think, as much as I don't like to be on City side, for fairness, City got a reduced squad size for one of their financial breaches a few years back when they were found guilty of breaching the
Yeah.
rules. So it's kind of like
I
that's
don't
kind of
think
par for the
I
course.
don't think they'll mind that either because, in fairness,
They don't have a big squad anyway.
they don't have a big squad, but they do rely on homegrown players and players from the Messiah coming through. So, and it looks like actually it was one that I spotted just about an hour before we came on. It looks like Ansu Fati could be going to Monaco on a loan with an obligation to buy.
What's the Brighton?
He was at Brighton, yeah, 12
Didn't
and a half.
really, yeah, it didn't really
No.
set the world alight as perhaps we were
Well,
thinking he would.
the thing is, he broke through as a teenager, same age, I think, as Lamine Yamal when he broke through. And unfortunately, he was the guy who followed the guy.
Yeah,
And he could never, ever, ever live up to that level of hype. So he broke through at Barcelona, and he looked like he was going to be the next best thing. But then, reality set in, and he just couldn't maintain the levels of Bright. And what he's not the only one. There's a few others at Barca who suffered massively from overplaying at a really young age. Gavi is the one that springs to
yeah,
mind straight
he's
away.
absolutely. He can't get a run of fitness now, unfortunately.
Exactly, yeah.
Sad for the lad because he's played so much.
Yeah, it's actually my real fear for Lamine Yamal is,
Hmm.
Spain, Barcelona, they all want to milk the cow, and I worry about where this kid is going to be in 3 years' time. I do. I just think he's going to be playing. He's going to have played way too much football for someone his age, and I don't think you can beat biology. Biology and physics is just one of those things you cannot run these players at that age. Kobe Manu is a classic example. You cannot do it. You have to be responsible, and I think clubs want to be, but the financial incentives, the financial rewards out there at the moment. I mean, this Club World Cup nonsense. It's huge financial. I think I seen a comment come out after
Is it
LA.
a million if you win it?
Well, after LAFC qualified for this, they earn $9 million just for being in it. For an MLS side, that's huge. So you can imagine 9 million just for being in the competition. That's going to get when you get into the second half of this competition, into the knockout stages, quarterfinals, semifinals. The money in this is huge. They're throwing the kitchen sink at it. So the clubs that are in it know the value of, especially you look at Chelsea now. If Chelsea are going to be hit with a financial penalty from UEFA, they need to go deep into this competition and get in as much money as humanly possible. Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the world, having to go on end of season tours to raise 10 million quid.
Mm-hmm.
That's where these clubs are because some of them are so badly run.
If Barcelona are getting some sort of financial penalty and a points deduction, then I guarantee you they ain't go for Diaz. So
yeah,
right,
let me just address this a sec because apparently whatever his name is really hard of hearing. The Yamil and Kobe Manu comparison is diabolical. Maybe you just didn't pick up on what I said, but what I said was if these kids played this much football, too young, what happened to Kobe Manu being overplayed at Manchester United could happen to Yamin Lamal in the next couple of years. They're playing way too much football, and if that goes over your head, I can't help you. But it is what it is.
Yeah. So before we go, don't forget to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. As you can see, there's the icon that side. So you scan the QR code, it sends you through to our Patreon page. try it for a month. First month's free, and the stuff we could do behind the paywall that we can't do on YouTube. So we start to do a lot more stuff, such as looking at old goals, or even like when the season's what we do, ref watch, where we can actually put video clips in and analysis up, so that which we can't show video clips on YouTube because of copyright rules. So and also we just do some exclusive shows, so it's just a bit of a laugh, really. So join us. I think you'll enjoy it. If you don't like it after a month, no hard feelings. But listen, give it a try. And you also get to join in our Telegram group, which is great fun. Great fun, despite Brian being on it. But apart from that, it's not bad, is it, Kev? Just avoid
No, it's
Brian,
good.
isn't
I'll
it?
tell you one thing at the minute. The Telegram app, when you get access into the members part of it, it's hopping every day. Every day, there's loads of transfer stuff going on, loads of general chat, and loads of fucking chat that's just absolute nonsense. But it gets people through the day as well. If you're bored and work, it's a great way of spending a few hours chatting with people about all
Yeah,
kinds of nonsense.
yeah.
It's
So
kind of like being in the chat in here some nights where you see all kinds of nonsense, but it's a bit of fun at the end of the day.
yeah. But listen, anyway, let's go. But listen, hit the bell icon, keep an eye out because we'll keep doing shows, and obviously, if anything breaks, anything exciting, then we'll come back on and do some more chat. Fingers crossed, Kev. We might be back here tomorrow with. Hey, wouldn't it be nice
Possibly.
to get a
Keep
bit
your
of
bell
Florian,
icons on, yeah, hopefully. Fingers
bit of
crossed.
Florian Wirtz chat? That'd be quite nice to break. It's a break, but we will see. Until
Yeah.
then,
All
speak
right.
very soon. See you later.